So I would like to thank Ricou for coming out. And I'm sorry, we've never been introduced to you. My name is Sam. It's very nice to meet you.
Renee, I'm his daughter.
Renee? Very nice to meet you, Renee. Thank you for coming out and joining us today. So Ricou, how's your weekend been? Are you having a good time here?
Yeah, is this thing on?
Here, let me see real quick. There you go.
Yeah, how's that?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, we had a good weekend, thank you.
Excellent, excellent.
Somebody got shot this morning.
There was a police action situation across the street. And
Yeah.
there's a nightclub out there, and alcohol and ego got in the way, I suppose, from what I'm understanding. And, that's what happens, I suppose, when people don't behave themselves.
Well, you know, I find it best that I don't talk about what I did or didn't do, but let the audience ask questions, and then I can answer what they want to know. So how does that go?
Yeah, sure thing. I also have a few questions for you myself.
Sure.
I'm a fan too. That's why we do this.
Okay.
But yeah, we can definitely do that. I've got Keenan or Steve, one of the guys, grab a mic and we can maybe walk around with that. But a couple of questions I have is, as a stunt coordinator, you've seen a lot of really crazy things in the industry. My actual daytime job is I work for OSHA. I'm a safety coordinator. You didn't have all that stuff back then. So, what were what were the scenarios like doing your stunts? I mean, as far as like safety and how you guys, kept everybody okay?
Well, as far as I was concerned, I picked my own safety people.
Okay.
And I use the same ones over and over, so they know me pretty well, and were able to help me do whatever I had to do.
Nice. Okay, excellent. All right, so let me go here to the trusty iPad because my memory's not as sharp as it should be. Another one of the questions I wanted to ask you about was before all the modern safety equipment, what did you guys use? Did you guys use timed breaks for your underwater scenes, or was there a certain amount of time you were allowed to be underwater during these scenes, or what kind of safety precautions did they take as far as making sure that you weren't?
No, as far as what we did, as far as working underwater, we would go to work like 9 o'clock in the morning, and we'd shoot to 4 in the afternoon. And we went down as many times as we needed to get the scene done. And if we didn't do it correctly, we'd come back up topside on a barge and rehearse the scene dry, and then go back down and do it again and see if we got it right.
Hey, Keenan and Steve, where are you guys at? Can you do me a favor and grab that other mic for me? Thank you. All right, so we're going to do some audience questions, and then I've got a few more questions. We're just going to kind of bounce back and forth. Any of you guys have questions for Ricou?
I'm kind of hard of hearing, so speak up loud.
Yes, sir. How did the suit affect your swimming abilities, or did it have any effect at all underwater?
How did the suit affect your swimming abilities?
The suit was made of sponge rubber and latex, and it was like a wetsuit. It absorbed water. And when I go in the water, of course, being rubber, I couldn't sink, so I had to wear lead. I had a lead chest plate, lead around my ankles, lead on my thighs in order to sink underwater. But once I got the lead on and I went underwater, I was neutrally buoyant and it worked out very well. However, when I came out of the water, the suit was full of water, the lead was heavy, and I felt like I was wearing a ton of lead. But anyway, the worst part was the weather. It was cold. We had at that time of the year in Tallahassee a 49 degree temperature, and the water temperature was 71. So when I came out of the water, it was pretty cold, and we shot all day long. And the crew felt sorry for me, so one of them would come up and ask me if I would like a shot of brandy. And I said, well, sure. So I took a shot of brandy. Well, other parts of the crew didn't know that the other guy gave me a shot of brandy. So they offered one. So after several of the crew gave me shots of brandy, they had a drunk preacher. So they had to stop doing that. They stopped.
Tell them about the vision, what the vision was like, the eyes.
Oh, she said to tell you about the vision. I wore the head, and the eye set about an inch away from my eye, and it was like looking through a keyhole away from your eye. And the problem was, we tried to wear a face mask, but it stuck out too far. And then I tried goggles, but the goggles worked, but when they filled with water, I had no way to get rid of the water. So I went with the naked eye, and it was blurred vision looking through a keyhole in fresh water. I hadn't both salt water, and vision was very poor. As an example, from me to him sitting in front of me, looking through a keyhole, it was blurred vision. I could tell he was a human being, but I wouldn't necessarily know who it was. And I would just go in and do the scene. And I breathed through the air hose. And then when I'd get ready to do the scene, the cameraman would give me a roll with his arm, and I'd hold my breath, go in and do the scene as best I could. And I had safety people with air hoses. And when I went limp, that meant I needed air. And it worked out very well. We didn't have any accidents, and I got air when I needed it. So it was fine.
All right, how about other questions?
How do you do, Mr. Brown? Towards the beginning of the creature scenes, there was one shot, a very quick scene, where the creature popped up out of the water and grabbed a stork or a bird off a log. How difficult was that, and was that a real bird?
Well, I was in Ocala, Florida, and my neighbor worked at Silver Springs in an animal compound, and he had a pet bird. And so I borrowed his bird. And I took the bird out to where we were shooting, and there was a log, and I set the bird on the log. And then when we got ready to do the scene, I took the bird and I ducked underwater. I grabbed his legs, pulled him underwater, and then I let him go, and he came right back up. And it didn't hurt the bird, and the bird was fine, and I took him home when the scene, the day shooting was over. But I got blamed for hurting a bird.
Thank you, sir.
All right, how about another question on this side, anyone over here?
Hello. I was wondering how your grip was in the gloves. How well were you able to grip stuff? Because it doesn't look very easy.
How, you mean grab thing, the whole thing? The hands had wire coming out each finger, and that would, when I opened the hand up, it would extend. But when I swam, it wasn't very helpful, so I had to close my hand and swim, and then when I'd come back, I'd close it again, so I wouldn't tear up the hands. And it worked out pretty well, but they didn't help much in swimming.
All right, we got one right over here.
Good afternoon, sir. For the scenes where you were underwater longer than normal, was there like a team of divers under there on standby with you, or did you just have to trust the team that was up there? Did you have anyone under there with you?
Yeah. I had 4 safety people, and each one of them carried an air hose for me to breathe from. And I would breathe from the air hose, and the cameraman would give me a sign to come in and start the scene. And I'd swim in and do the best I could, holding my breath, to complete the scene. And when I ran out of air, I had a signal with the divers that if I went totally limp, that meant I need air. And it worked out perfect, and we didn't have any accidents. And when I went limp, they brought the air right in, and I was able to breathe from it. The worst part of the air was when I breathed air at an exhale, it would go up into the head and fill the top of the head with air. And so when we got ready to do the scene, you see bubbles coming out of the head. So I had a way of pushing down on my head to get rid of all of the air before I went into the scene. But I never really got rid of all the air. And if you watch the movie, every now and then you'll see hair, little bubbles coming out of the top of the head.
So, did you ever time yourself to see how long you could hold your breath?
Not really. I just held it as long as I could.
Let me answer that. I did some interviews of people that he worked with over the years, because he did more than just The Creature from the Black Lagoon. I don't know if you guys know about his career, but he did The Underwater Direction of Thunderball, Never Say Never Again, did Flipper, Caddyshack, I mean, whole 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah. Won an
But-
Academy Award for Thunderball. if I
Yes, he
remember
did.
correctly.
But during those interviews, a lot of people said he could hold his breath probably at the most about 4 minutes. And then, but that's if he wasn't moving around a lot. He says that if he was moving around a lot, it was a lot less than that. But he will never brag about how long he can hold his breath, but other people have bragged about it.
And I can't even walk
I
up
did
like
that
steps.
now. I look at it.
Excellent. All right. How about other audience questions? Got one over here, where we at? There we go.
When you were working on the movie, did you know that it was going to be something special? And if not, at what point did you realize it was such a loved classic?
No, I know that, including myself, all the people that worked on the film just figured I went to work, that day, got paid, went home. And it was just another film or another job. And I went home. At that time, I lived in Ocala, Florida. And then the movie was released. I paid to go into the theater to see the movie. And I saw the movie, and it was in 3D. And they didn't have 3D perfected at that time, and it hurt your eyes. So they quit showing it in 3D and just showed it single strip, one without double vision. And it worked out fine. But I paid to get into the theater, and I saw the movie, and I enjoyed it, and I thought we did a pretty good job. Well, I didn't hear anything about the movie again, probably about 20 years afterwards. And I got a letter, and someone wanted to get a picture of the creature, and I didn't have any. And finally, a neighbor of mine had one picture, and I still have the picture of the creature, me with the suit. And so I got that, and I had it duplicated, and I mailed the guy the picture and charged him $5. And gradually, I got more people wanting pictures, and then they started doing shows like this. And I probably accumulated up to 200-300 pictures. We don't have room on the table where I am now to put all the pictures, so we just have portions of them. And we sell them at the table. And that's it.
So, I'm not sure if you guys know it or not, but Ricou is the co-creator of Flipper, correct?
I created the show Flipper. I was doing some job at the Miami Aquarium, and I came home, and the children were sitting in the living room watching Lassie television. And I sat down with them and started watching the show with them. And then I got the bright idea, well, why not do a movie about a boy and a dolphin? And I remembered that when I was in school, there was a story about a Greek guy riding a dolphin. So I thought, boy, that would be great. So I wasn't a very good writer, but I was a pretty good thinker. And my brother-in-law was a pretty good writer. So we got together, and on the weekend, we wrote a little story called Flipper. And I took it to New York with my last $200 and peddled it to several of the bookstores. And I found two that were interested, one in particular, Doubleday. And I went home, and I never heard from them. Well, I had already done a show with Ivan Tors called Sea Hunt. And I called Ivan in California, and I said, Ivan, I wrote a book about a boy and a dolphin, and it's called Flipper, and I have a company in New York that is supposed to publish it, but I haven't heard from them. I said, can I call them and tell them that I have a producer in California interested in making it into a movie? And in telling them that, it might induce them to publish the book. He said, yeah, go ahead, but send me a copy. So I did. And I called New York, and I talked to the book company and told them I have a producer in California that might be interested in making this into a movie, hoping that would get them to say, okay, we'll do the book. But I never heard from them. But I did get a call about a week later from Ivan. He said, Ivan said, I got your story about the boy and the dolphin. He said, I didn't read it, my wife did, and she loved it. And she made me read it. I love it. Let's make a movie. So he got money from MGM, and we made the first Flipper movie. That was it.
So in making Flipper and doing so, I guess I should ask, what was more challenging, holding your breath, being the gill man, or working with animals and dolphins making Flipper?
Well, that's a confusing question.
Yeah.
But they were both difficult.
Which one was the most difficult?
Well, they were just so different, there's no most.
No comparison.
Yeah.
Tell them about the dolphin, what it was like finding the dolphin, training the dolphin.
Oh, we had to get a dolphin to play Flipper. And I went to the Miami Seaquarium in Miami and told them about the show we wanted to do, and we wanted to use a dolphin. Well, in those days, they noted the aquariums didn't have people swimming with dolphins. They would train the dolphin, and the people that trained them would work from a bench topside and feed them fish to jump through a hoop and do whatever they do. But nobody was swimming with the dolphin. And so I asked them if I could use a dolphin to train it to swim with people. They said no. So I went all the way around different aquariums to try to get someone to let us use a dolphin to train. And we couldn't get anybody interested. Well, we went down the Florida Keys, and there was a gentleman named Santini, and he caught dolphins in the ocean to sell to aquariums. Well, he kept one dolphin in a little pond next to where he lived, and kept it there for one reason. When you get a wild dolphin, you put it in that pond, and the dolphin that he had in there, Mitzi was her name, he would already feed her, and they would see him feeding her, and the wild dolphins would begin to eat sooner. So that's why he kept Mitzi. And so we asked him if we could talk to him about using Mitzi in a movie. He said, well, I don't know. He says, go over there and see what you think. So Ivan and I went over to this little pond. It had a dock sticking out. And he walked out on the dock, and I waded in the water. And when I got about chest deep, standing, this dolphin, which was Mitzi, swam around, stuck her nose up under my arm, and just laid there. And I looked up at Ivan, and I said, Ivan, we got Flipper. So I spent the next 3 or 4 months training Flipper to do the things we needed for the movie. And I used my son at that time, he was 9 years old, to work with me with the dolphin. And we couldn't get the dolphin to ride the boy, sit on it and ride it. And so we're at the dock, and I would throw a ball, he'd bring it back, a rag or whatever. So I told Ricky, I said, Ricky, when I throw a ball, you jump in the water, and we'll see what Mitzi might do. So sure enough, I threw the ball over the wall. It didn't hit the water. He jumped in, he hit the water, and the dolphin swam over and grabbed a loophole on his pants. He had cut off jeans. And she tried to pull him with the loop over to me. And I said, wow, that's pretty good. So I said, Ricky, let's try something. When I throw the ball, you jump in the water, and let's see if Mitzi will try to bring you to me. And so I'd throw the ball, and I'd throw it over his head onto land. He'd jump in, make a splash. The dolphin, Mitzi, went over there and tried to make him come, and he accidentally stuck his hand up, and she swam with the fin right into his hand and towed him to me. So then I said, Ricky, you go way across the pond. I'll throw the ball way over there over to you. Jump in the water and hold on to Mitzi and see if she'll ride you to me. And sure enough, I threw the ball, he jumped in the water, and she rode him all the way to me, him holding her fin. And so the cameraman of the show, Lamar Boren, was staying in a cabin above the pond where we were staying. And I yelled up at Lamar, I said, Lamar, come here. He came and I said, photograph this. So he photographed Ricky being towed to me. I said, send it to Ivan and tell him we got Flipper. So I spent the next 3-4 months training the dolphin to do what we needed for the show. And I never trained a dolphin before, so it was a hit and miss thing. But finally, after several weeks of training, we were able to accomplish the things we needed for the movie.
All right, looks like we've got an audience question right here.
Oh, thank you. So I'm very fascinated by the fact that people did not swim with dolphins before that, as far as aquarium practices. As far as you know, did you have any influence upon dolphin training after that? Like, did they begin to mimic what you did for the movie?
As far as I could tell, from going to the various aquariums, at that time, there was no one swimming with dolphins. In other words, whenever they used a dolphin, they trained him working from topside, not in the water. And as far as I can tell, I don't think anybody was swimming with dolphins until after we did Flipper.
Thank you.
So, Ricou, let me ask you, why do you think it is that, was there a stigmata with, swimming with dolphins prior to that, do you think? Or was it just something nobody had ever done? Or what do you think the change was?
I don't think there was a change. I think it just, when people did shows, they did the show with the dolphin in the water and then out of the water. And that's how they did the show. And that was it.
So we're just going to go ahead and attribute Flipper to being what caused people to start swimming in dolphins. All right, how about other audience questions? Have any on this side of the ring? Right here, Peter.
Hi, Mr. Browning. I have a question for you about how Guillermo del Toro saw the scene of you swimming underneath Janet, I think, in The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and it inspired him to write a love story between the woman and the creature. And I just wanted to know if you had seen that movie or what you thought about it, or if you liked the idea of a retelling.
She's asking about The Shape of Water and the director, how he loved Creature from the Black Lagoon.
The director of Shape of Water, I talked to him on the phone, and I told him I saw his movie, and I thought he did a great job directing it. but I thought it was an awful movie. I didn't like it. And the reason, and I told him so, is the girl in the movie, she met the guy and they had sex. I mean, that was it. And they should have saved that for the end of the movie and not have it just in the beginning. And he agreed. And also I said, when the guy got shot, he died, or he should have died because he got shot so many times. That when he went in the water and he took the girl, she is human and they're not going to become a fish. And he was going to die anyway. What he should have done is go in the water with her, push her to the surface, turn around, swim down, and she'd die. And she's saved. He agreed. He said, but I already made a movie. And a nice man. And we've talked several times. Tom, the guy that played the monster, Doug Jones, a wonderful guy and very talented. And we became very close friends and we've done a number of shows together.
Actually, Doug is right on the other side of that panel, right there. He's in the next room. Doug Jones is.
He's here?
Yeah, he's right there on the other
I thought
side.
he left yesterday.
I thought he left.
Oh, did he leave last night?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yesterday.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
He wasn't able to stay because he's filming.
gotcha, okay.
I got a good picture of the two of them together, though.
Nice. Yeah, Doug's a great guy. We had a panel, I don't even remember which one it was, I think it was Louisville last year. And spent a good time talking about all the creature effects that he's done and, you know, how hard it was to do the different suits and all that sort of stuff. So what was it like with the Gillman suit? What was the process of becoming the Gillman? Was there much like application or makeup or anything, or was it just all, you know, suit pieces?
No, when I went to, when they asked me if I wanted to play the part of the monster, I went to California and they made a suit. And the first suit I put on a leotard, and they were going to glue pieces onto the suit. And the first thing they did after they put the leotard on me is they took a piece of rubber for a chest and they glued it on my chest. And that was the beginning of putting the suit together. And Jack Keevan, who did most of the work with Chris Mueller, they borrowed from Disney World. Anyway, they were putting it on my chest, and I said to Jack, Jack, this is getting hot, you know, where this thing is glued. He said, that's all right, it'll dry in a few minutes. And it got hotter and hotter. I said, Jack, this thing is hot. He says, the glue's setting up, it'll dry, it'll be all right. I said, it's not gonna be all right, I'm gonna tear this thing off. They said, no, don't do that. And they cut it off correctly. And they left a blister about the size of the end of your little finger on my chest. And matter of fact, I still have it there, and it still shows. But anyway, then they had to make a model of my body out of plaster of Paris, and then they put the suit together on the plaster of Paris creature, person, and which became the creature suit. The first suit they made, the creature looked more like a lizard than a human being or a monster or anything. And we had photographed it in the back tank at Universal Studios, and when they showed it in the projection room the next day, everybody loved Judy Adams in a white bathing suit. But they hated the creature. It looked more like a lizard. So they had to start all over again and build another creature. And that's the suit that they finally made and that we wore and used in the movie. And they made 4 suits for me, and I used all of them. We tore them up pretty well. I was was fighting or whatever. But anyway, it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it.
Tell them about the second movie when you were filming underwater. The foot got stolen.
Oh, the second feature we shot at Marineland Studios in St. Augustine, Florida. And we shot in there, a big fish tank. And in the tank, they had everything. They had turtles swimming, sharks swimming, everything. And in the middle of the tank, they had a big anchor. And I would go down and sit on the anchor and wait until the rest of the crew came in to do the other scenes. And I would go down and sit on the anchor and breathe from the air hose, waiting. And I was sitting there, and I felt something tugging my foot. And I couldn't see very well, as I told you, without the goggles. And I looked down, and sure enough, this big loggerhead turtle had biting the end of my foot and bit the end of the shoe off and swam away with it. And so I was there with a flipper with no heel. So the crew had to jump in, they had to chase the turtle down and get the piece of foot back because it's the last pair I had. And then I had to come out and they had to dry it and then glue it back on. But it finally worked out all right. But I couldn't believe that turtle was biting my foot.
All right, any other questions?
Good afternoon, Mr. Browning. Out of the three movies as the Gillman, was there any one of them that stands out as your favorite of the three?
Yeah, the first one. And the main reason was I got paid more money for the first one, and they spent more money making the first one. And as the show went, the second one, they didn't spend as much money, so it wasn't done as well. And the third one was a lot of stock footage from the first movie and the second movie, and very little was shot for the actual film. We had a scene where the creature, after he had his gills removed, died underwater, and that was shot at Wacala Springs.
All right, how about the sunroom? Anybody over here got a question?
One question, moving to actually Thunderball. The climactic battle scene, there's a lot of harpoons being fired. What were the safety regulations for that to make sure that no one accidentally got impaled?
I gotta say, Thunderball, I directed the underwater sequences, was the greatest film I ever worked on. The main reason I was told just to shoot it and don't worry about the budget. So I've never worked on a movie where you didn't worry about the budget. And so I didn't worry about the budget, and I spent as much time and effort, as well as the crew, making the movie, and didn't worry about spending a dime. And it never stopped me from filming until I said I was through. And I enjoyed making the movie. It was a lot of fun. And I had 13 divers that I always used in Florida on different things that I've worked on. And I had all 13 of them come to Nassau to film the underwater scenes. And they all worked very hard, very diligently, and none of them got hurt, and a lot of them would fight. And I told the crew, I said, look, we want to kill people every way we can think of doing it. And I said, when you think of getting killed, do it. If you think you want to die and getting shot with a spear gun, die with getting shot with a spear gun. And then we different air hose, spears hitting the regulator and air coming out. And anyway, everybody that wanted to die could die any way they wanted to, and we'd film it. And it was a lot of fun, and we shot over and over again.
How we practiced above water before we went underwater. How we practiced the scene above water before we went underwater to do it. Right, but they don't know that.
We would rehearse the scenes underwater on topside on a barge. And as I said, I'd tell the crew, any way you wanted to die, die that way. And we'd go underwater and we'd film it. And we had scenes like a barge, old barge, and we had a fight on top of it. And we had James Bond. He was wearing this tank apparatus on his back, and it was awful. It couldn't work. We had to tow him with a wire to make it move, and we put dye in the water so it looked like it was going fast. And he would come into the scene and shoot people with this thing coming out of his back, and he would shoot it. And we had the first accident. He shot a guy and it hit him in the chest and exploded, and the guy's supposed to die. Well, Courtney Brown was the diver, and the thing hit him in the chest, and we had a little bomb set up on his chest so that it would explode when the thing that Bond shot hit it, and it exploded, and it did explode. But what happened, the gas from the explosion went up his shoulder and was red hot and burned him very badly. So he was burned, and we had to take him to the hospital. But after several weeks, he was fine and it healed. But it was an awful accident.
All right, we got one question right over here.
Yes. Like with the turtle incident, on any other film you've ever worked on, was there anything similar to that? Any other situations like the turtle dragging your foot away?
Any other incidents similar to the turtle thing?
Where the underwater life caused issues?
As far as accidents are concerned, we didn't have any accidents that I know of, other than what I told you about with the spear gun hitting the shoulder. I had a problem. I would go in and try to create one of the fights or something, and I was fighting a guy on top of the ship, and we were fighting as we fell down the ship. Well, down on the bottom of the ship, there was a spear gun laying there, and it was pointing up, and when we fell down, my leg hit the spear gun, and it stuck the spear into my leg. And so they had to pull the spear out and unscrew it, and it left a barb in my leg. And we went to the hospital, and they cut it and took the barb out, and it healed in a couple of days. It was fine.
But he told them to film it before he left. Film it.
Method acting. All right, how about questions over here? We got any questions on this side? Right here, front row.
Mr. Browning, Revenge of the Creature was Clint Eastwood's very first movie. He had a very small role in it. I was just wondering, did you have any encounters or any conversations with him? Did you get to spend time with him at all?
No, I think that Clint Eastwood was in the second film, and I think it was the first movie he ever made, and he had a small role as an executive sitting at a desk or something, and it was filmed in California. All my scenes were filmed in Florida, so we never met or talked, and I think he enjoyed the movie, and that was it.
Universal Studios is famous for bringing back the famous monsters no matter how many times they're killed off. At the end of Black Lagoon, the creature was obviously shot and mortally wounded, and they show the creature drifting down to the bottom of the ocean or whatever. How did they decide the creature and Revenge of the Creature? Was that creature the same creature from the first movie, or was that creature supposed to be like a relative or brother, sister, whatever creature?
Basically, did the creature die in the first movie, or was that the same creature in the second movie? Was it a different creature or the same creature?
No, they assumed, I guess it was the same creature in both movies. And when the creature died and sank, well, I guess they assumed that he lived. He didn't die.
All right, guys, we've got time for about 2 more questions. So let's grab one from this side of the room and one from that side of the room.
Again, on the creatures, how come there's 2 creatures for below water you and Ben Chapman for above water? Why not just have you for both above and below?
The reason they used two different people for the movie, in the first movie, Ben Chapman was the creature topside. Second movie, Tom Hennessy was the movie topside, and Don McGowan in the third movie. I was 6 feet tall. I'm shorter than that now, you know. But anyway, I was 6 feet tall. They were all 6'4", and so they wanted the creature topside to look big and more menacing. So that's why they used a tall guy for the topside, and me a shorter one. Well, the doubles that we used underwater were shorter than the actors that they doubled, so they were also shorter.
Thank you.
All right, we got one question over on the side of the room. Anyone over here? Right there.
Out of all the things you did in the water and things like that, what was your favorite stunt to perform or direct?
What was your favorite thing underwater to perform or direct?
I guess Thunderball. And the reason being is we were able to spend all the money we needed to do whatever scene we were doing. And I didn't have to worry about spending money. And we had a lot of safety people. As I said, I had 13 divers of my own, so to speak. And they also worked as safety men as well as people that acted in the film.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please put your hands together and make some noise.